Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. I'm your host, Sybil Amuti.
And don't you just love how I brought in our studio audience today? Those are my friends and family, y'all. They're here to clap it up and celebrate this great girlfriend magic that is happening here on the show. So without further ado, grab something great to drink, grab your pen and paper, and get ready for this week's episode. Enjoy.
All right, great girlfriends. Happy Wednesday. And what a beautiful summer that we are kicking off. I am so excited. I have a beautiful woman, an author here, Saumya Dave, who is an author, resident psychiatrist, and co-founder of This Is For Her. Saumya's writing has been featured in New York Times, Huffington Post, Refinery 29, and a host of other places. This new book is going to be our favorite summer read. I feel it. Do you feel it, Saumya? Is that what we're calling it?
Yes, I love that. Thank you.
This is going to be the one that we take to the beach, that we flip through, that we laugh over, that we cry over. The This Is Us of novels. That's what I'd like to see.
What a most flattering description ever. I'm going to hold on to that.
Okay, perfect. I hope that feels good to you.
It does. Very much.
I want to talk about this big novel, What a Happy Family. In short, the novel is about a family who learns the funniest punchlines can hide the hardest truths. As they encounter public humiliation, gossiping aunties, and self-doubt, the Joshi family must rely on each other like never before. But sometimes family has to fall apart in order to come back stronger than before. Dave's debut novel, Well-Behaved Indian Woman, was featured on most anticipated book roundups from Elle, Marie Claire, Pop Sugar, Bustle, and more. And this new one, What a Happy Family, is already building incredible buzz. Listen, I think 2020 really solidified this conversation for us. I think everything the in short of this novel was our whole life story, right? Of 2020 and more.
Oh, absolutely. I think 2020 was a time for so many of us to look at the relationships in our lives and see them in a different perspective, whatever that may have been. I think it really was a time for evaluating a lot.
Absolutely. Well, I know that 2020 was a shaping year for you in terms of building the novel and some of the family dynamics that you found unexpectedly living with your own family in 2020. So give us the gateway into this brilliant piece of work that you have here.
Oh, sure. So what I've often found with the creative process a lot of times is that sometimes I think I'm trying to write about one thing, and then I really have been trying to write about something else altogether. And I'll only discover that through edits and reflection and time and letting the idea simmer for a while. So a lot of different things. So for What a Happy Family, I actually initially thought that I wanted to write about a woman going through her psychiatry residency. I learned so much going through my own training at Mount Sinai Beth Israel in the East Village here in New York City. And I just found it so revealing in so many ways. It taught me so much about people and how to be there for them. And I wanted that captured in a book. And then in 2020, my husband and my now toddler, then infant, and I moved in with my parents and grandparents and siblings. So all of a sudden, we thought we were going to be new parents on our own in our apartment here in New York City. And we went from that to being with 4 generations of family for a whole year. And it really was during that year that I just learned so much about family dynamics. I think my training came into play. And then also being an adult back in the same house as your parents brings up a lot. I found that one minute I was an angsty teenager wanting to go write in my diary about how nobody understood me. And the next minute I was in my late 20s making sure that my parents were eating well and that they were staying safe because there were so many uncertainties around COVID-19 and all of those things. And in the next second I was in my 30s and saying, no, I know how to parent. I know how to be a mom in my own ways. And I was, rejecting their advice and being stubborn. And then I was learning their stories of what it meant to come to America and raise us and work really hard and really start from nothing and not know if they ever really truly belonged. And in all of those conversations, I just came back thinking that there's so many ways that our families heal us and hurt us. And there's so many things that that we do with them that shape who we become even outside of our families. I was just so fascinated by those ideas. And I started reading about family systems theory, which is this idea that we often tend to go back into the roles that we fit in our families of origin when we're back with those people. So, we have a way that works, and there's certain kind of personalities that fit, and we regress back into those when we're in the presence of those people. And that definitely happened with me when I was back there. So it was really observing all of those things and learning and connecting in a way that I hadn't ever before with my family that helped bring this book to life.
Wow. I have to tell you, Saumya, yes, that is true. I think that regression, because I'm the youngest, and when I get around my siblings and my mom now, and, I completely regress back into being the youngest and trying to get the attention I need and all the cravings that happen from childhood. And I even see, we talk about that in my marriage because my husband is also a youngest. And we see some of the evidence of that and how playful we can be with each other sometimes, and how, we kind of have the same family dynamic. So we understood a lot about each other when we were dating because we were both youngest. And I think it also plays out in friendships. I start to see that the relationship between family and how, and even at work, right? So I think that adaptation is really real for a lot of people, and the awareness of it can make the world of difference in how we navigate relationships, for sure.
Oh, you're so right. And I love how you said that about marriage and friendships and work, because you're so right. Into these other spheres in our lives, the people who we were in those environments that we grew up in, they do come out and then exist, of course, in our other relationships that we make and the other bonds that we form.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I love this line. You said sometimes family has to fall apart in order to come back stronger than before. And there's nothing truer than having, as a family, to heal through something, to be able to love and have empathy and compassion for one another, and to have the visibility that you may not have seen before. Is that something that you personally relate with?
Absolutely. I think my siblings and I experienced that in different ways. And I'm sure my parents did as well. But growing up, it was often, I'm the oldest, and then I have a younger sister and then a younger brother. And it was always us against the world. That's how it often felt, at least when we were growing up. And I realized as we became older and we'd kind of talk about memories from when we were younger, that sometimes we would all look back on the same moment that we had all been a part of, and we'd see an entirely different thing from that exact same moment.
Exactly.
And that was so fascinating to me that, sometimes people really do hurt each other without meaning to. And sometimes people really do break another person's self-esteem or their hope in something or something, and they don't necessarily mean to. But the communication and the body language and the expectations play such a big part. And so sometimes those tiny breaks are really what's necessary to help rebuild, because I found that I didn't understand some of the ways that my siblings and my parents were hurt until we were talking about it later. And also when I think back to other moments growing up, it was really when we had some tough times as a family, and then we came out of those tough times, that we had a new understanding of each other. And what I've seen professionally and personally often is that people really want to be their honest selves with those they love. And when they feel they can't be, and they can't be accepted for that, that can bring up a lot of turmoil and conflict. So that was also a central point of the book, that what does it mean to show up holistic who you are with the people you love, and be accepted for all of who you are, not just the role that you've been seen in.
That's really good. Something else, I find that we have got to learn how to normalize therapy in our families, therapy in media, conversations.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we give permissions to celebrities and our superheroes of our world to go to therapy and pursue different mental health solutions. But I think it's also our responsibility as a family to, if we do need to have conversations in a safe space, if we need to navigate, a complex situation and create resolution or even grief, that we do that as a family. And I think it makes families stronger. What have you experienced, in that realm of normalizing therapy and mental health solutions?
Oh, yes, I agree with everything you just said. And I've seen many parts to that point. So growing up, I feel very fortunate that my parents always openly discussed mental health and mental illness. My dad is a management physician, and many of the patients whom he saw had depression or anxiety or other things that they were coping with throughout the day that did have some impact on their pain and their overall health. So he, from a young age, would always tell me that, if somebody has depression, they have to find someone to talk to about it. They have to find a way to get it treated. That treatment could look different for different people. So those conversations were normalized for me and for the other members of our family growing up. I didn't realize till I was in about middle school that in the South Asian community, and then of course, across the world, really, mental health as an idea has so much stigma around it. So it was actually a bit of a shock for me to see that it's often something that isn't discussed. And what I learned along the way is that things that have shame attached to them often also have silence attached to them. So having any kind of perceived weakness or anything that can bring shame or honor on your family or your community, and of course on yourself, was often treated with silence when I was growing up. And there would be these hush-hush conversations about certain family friends or family members, or maybe people we didn't even know so well, and about, oh, I think this person's struggling, and oh, their poor parents, look at what they're being put through for this and that. So there wasn't so much conversation about that. And it was when I was in residency that I saw the power of really normalizing that, and for treating it the same way that we would treat our physical health. We go for our checkups, we go to see the doctor or healthcare provider if we think something may be off about our bodies. And I hope that we get to a point where all of us feel that we can do that if something feels like that for us emotionally and mentally, because so many people are suffering in silence and they feel alone because of that. They feel more isolated because of that. And I think conversations and education and people normalizing that do help so much. I gave birth in December of 2019. So in early 2020, I went to some virtual new mother groups. And actually there were two women there who said, oh, I think I might be struggling with my mental health in this postpartum period. But actually it was these white influencers talking about it that made me feel like I could talk about it with my family. And I thought that was so interesting because I think different communities have different ideas of what it means to maintain your mental health and take care of yourself. And so we do need those conversations from other people, and we do need to see that in order to feel that it's okay for us to do the same.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then to bring that up into fiction and, to portray it properly in the writing that you did, I think it's a really great bridge for people to have a disarming way to walk through another family story and maybe locate themselves in it without feeling feeling like they're being targeted by the conversation.
Yes.
But to kind of see yourself in a character really helps us to kind of make new decisions about things that have been old issues. So I love the idea that you introduce it in a way that makes it very relatable. And I think in every family, when you see other families, you kind of find your position and you go, oh, I may be Natasha, or I may be, another character in the book. But I do think, one of the things that can help us self-soothe this summer and even beyond, because who knows what the data is going to show about the effects of COVID on our mental health. I'd love to know, we don't have any long-term data, but I know it's going to be, the alarming to see how it's affected us and the PTSD tied to it, but having this kind of relatable storyline, I think is very helpful for us as women.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. And I think stories have taught me and others really what the world is like and what it means to be a part of it. When I grew up, I read a lot of Babysitter's Club and I read a lot of Sweet Valley High. Those were the books that were put in front of me. And you did. I just feel such a kindred connection whenever anybody else also read those, because I think you get it.
Sweet Valley was just it. I thought the world of that series.
Oh, same. And to speak to your point, I thought the world of that series as well. And I remembered at one point in high school, I wanted her and blue eyes because Jessica and Elizabeth Wakefield had that. And they could talk to their parents openly about crushes and dating and these things that I just couldn't do. And they didn't look the way that I did or that my family members and friends in my community did. And so I remember thinking, well, where are our stories to be ourselves? And so I agree with you that I think fiction is such a great place to put things that can be hard to discuss, but that we want to normalize and that we want to bring forth, because it is a way for a person to read. And my hope is that they feel less alone. Even if they don't directly relate to one of the characters, I hope that someone reads this and feels, hey, I'm not the only one struggling here. I'm not the only one who's been misunderstood in some way, or felt that something about me is different, or something about me doesn't fit in here. Because I think sometimes it can start there when you can identify and you can feel that connection with the character. I do think that goes a very long way. I certainly had that experience reading books growing up.
For sure. And then for you, because I feel like 2020 was somewhat of a birthing year for you, having a baby. birthing two babies between your new child and then also your book. There's a lot that goes on, for you as a woman to try to balance it all and navigate all the different things, and also being a physician. What have you found has helped you in terms of your mental health and harmony?
So a few things. One, I found that having support, whatever that support looks like, is extremely helpful. We now have childcare for our son. He just started in daycare a few weeks ago. And this is the first time my husband and I have actually had full-time childcare since he was born. And we're already just seeing the difference in how it helps the three of us, actually. And when I was with my parents, they take care of my grandparents full time. So we were all working in shifts. And I really saw both the power and also just what caregiving of all types does to a person, and how every caregiver in our country and in our world deserves the support to do what they're doing, because it is hard work and it's often overlooked work. So that was a big takeaway for me from the past year, both from my parents' vantage point and then my own as a new mom. The second thing I would say is that the year really taught me that rest is not a reward. Rest is a right, because what I did is I would see patients, and then I would take care of my son, and then my husband would take over, and then I'd work on the book. And what ended up actually happening was I sacrificed my sleep in order to get all of these other things done. And it was not something I would ever recommend to anyone. I don't think that we need to wear burnout as a badge of honor. And sometimes, our culture and our world really rewards working and working and working and producing. But it took me all of 2020 to realize that rest is a productive thing to do, and it's the right thing to do. And our bodies are always sending us signals, whether we're listening to them or not, that it's time to take a breather and take a break. The last I would say is to just have self-compassion, because I think we've all been through so many changes and so many different forms of uncertainty. And often I saw, for a lot of my friends, even in different types of fields with their work, there was pressure to keep showing for it. That, did they log on for this many hours? Did they have this many number of Zoom calls and this and that? But really, in the midst of so much turmoil and uncertainty, we deserve to give ourselves a lot of grace and to lower the expectations that we have on ourselves. So those lessons took me the whole year to learn, but I think those stand out as the takeaways from the past year.
Those are great. I mean, the rest one alone will save you years of youth,
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, as a new mom, to learn that as a new mom, I have a 12 and a 9-year-old, and I still have to reinforce those very same values. But getting help is the solution for every mom around the world who is listening right now, who is confused on how to get anything done. Getting help is the relief effort. Get your first responders in there and get them engaged in your family system, and allow yourself to have the rest that, and like you said, it's not about it being a privilege to rest. It is part of our responsibility to devote that back to our temples. This is the only body we get, Saumya. And I've learned that. Yeah. That dawned on me at 35, that my 95-year-old body wasn't coming in a separate box, that I was actually going to have to take care of this.
I love that.
I really thought I would get a shipment and I would just, step in. No, wait, this is the only one? Hold on a minute. I got to do some things better, and that awakening was a healing place for me, because I didn't see it. You always see you see the years that are coming and they seem so far away. And then I hit 40 and I was like, oh my goodness, 50 is not as far away as it looked, before. And neither is 60 or 70. So let me pay attention to how I do this, because realizing that this was the only body changed the way I treated and the kindness, like you said, that I can offer to myself, and how much I extend myself to just really make sure that I'm managing. And I had one doctor say last year, she said, we lost our respect for sleep, or we never had it. And when she said that, it really convicted me, someone who was doing 4 hours, 5 hours with a badge of honor. Right. And I had to recognize the difference that my life now has, the peace I have as a result of learning how to respect sleep. So you get the Girl Scout badge for really taking the year and and grabbing those major lessons and consuming them. And you'll give that to your child, which is so great. Your child will have a respect for the work that you do, your need for rest and balance. Your child will be able to, and everyone in your family, everyone will really learn how to respect you when you have empowered yourself in that way. So kudos to you, new mom. That's a new mom round of applause for me. I'm telling you.
That
it's
makes
hard.
my entire day. No, thank you so much. I think new motherhood was the hardest thing I had been through, and I'm still, of course, adjusting to it, but it's given me a newfound respect and appreciation for women, honestly, and for what they're capable of, and also what they carry, really, in so many different ways that we may not always see. So truly it does. And I really appreciate you saying that. As just one quick side note to that, I remembered when I would feel guilty for getting rest, and I told my husband once that I feel really bad, I'm doing this for me. And he said, no, you're doing it actually, and it's for all of us. We all benefit when you feel better. And that helped a lot to have that reframing, because he was right.
Yes, that's so good, hubby. It is so good. I'm telling you, because mom guilt is just as much of a syndrome as all the other syndromes out there.
It's so strong.
Yeah. It's a real thing. But it sounds like you're on the track to making sure that you have mom strength and not, mom guilt, which is the one that is so hard to overcome. But I do want to ask you, what a happy family is such a full term, because I think we come to learn that, as children, we might compare our family to others and question why our norms are different from others. And then as we get to become adults, we start to see our parents and we might judge them a pinch for things they did that we think we could have done better because now we're adults, And then you become a parent or a spouse. And, even as a spouse, you see your parental spouse, the parental spouses, and you're like, wow, I don't know if my parent is, as great a spouse as they are a parent, and then you become a parent and you start to understand that everyone's figuring it out. And
yes, that's such a good point.
Yeah. And isn't that sort of the happiness of family, when you can have that lens to kind of grow through decisions and grow through the judgment and the conviction of all of that?
Absolutely. And I love the way you said that. I do think that we're doing the best we can with what we have in the given moment. And it's such a turning point, I think, for children to start seeing their parents as people instead of just parents. That idea actually was a lot of what drove my debut, Well-Behaved Indian Women, and plays a role in this one too. One small thing that came up is Suhani, the eldest daughter in the Joshi family. She really doesn't like cooking. She doesn't like anything that she perceives to be as domestic work. She just doesn't enjoy it. And she feels that she's doing herself a service by not living a life like her mother's. She doesn't want it to resemble what her mom did at all. But she realizes how much work went into all of those things she took for granted that her mom did. So there's one small part of the book where she actually says to herself that, wow, when I cut a pineapple or a watermelon, I give myself a pat on the back. And my mom used to do things like this all the time. And I didn't realize the full extent of the work she was doing that helped our lives run. And so much of it was behind the scenes and taken inside. So I do think that all of us, when we grow up, we just have a different perspective on the little and the big things that we maybe used to look at in a different light when we were younger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my last question for you is, what will be your legacy? What is it that you are building out that we will come to know for sure about the work that you do and the woman that you are?
Ooh, I love that question. I hope that through both my work as a psychiatrist and as a writer, that I can just help people feel less alone in their struggles, really. So if even one person reads one line and they feel some level of identification or hope, then I will feel that my work has been done. So that's really the sum of both. I was drawn to both because I love human nature so much. And I love seeing where I can play a role and learning how I can create a connection. And so my love for those things definitely gave birth to both of those careers. But that's what I hope is the takeaway at the end of it all.
That is beautiful. I absolutely love that. And I feel the bridge is being drawn right now for that to take place. So thank you for that. And lastly, this book is coming out in June. We want everyone to rush out and grab their copies. And where can they purchase?
So they'll be available at all major retailers. I love an independent bookstore. And so if you have a local independent bookstore, you can ask them to have it in stock if they don't already. I know a lot of people do like the convenience of Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but really anywhere books are sold, Target, there's a copy available. And then there will also be an audiobook and then an ebook as well.
Nice. And then where can they keep up with you on social media?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Saumya J Dave, Dave. And then there's also my website, saumyadave.com. So SAUMYADAVE.com.
Awesome, Saumya. Thank you so much for being on today. Thank you for the work that you do. And I hope you are beyond the bestseller list, that you're off into the stratosphere of books. And I just really thank you for sharing your storyship through the book and through the novels that you create.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. This was such a great experience. And I really enjoyed our chat.
I'm so glad. And you're a great girlfriend for life.
Yay, I'm honored. Thank you.
Great girlfriends, did you enjoy this week's episode of the podcast? If so, would you please give us your amazing review on iTunes? Every single review helps another great girlfriend get plugged into the podcast, into the community. Speaking of community, make sure you join our Facebook group, The Great Girlfriends. You follow us on Instagram at The Great Girlfriends and on Twitter at @the_greatGFS. Last but not least, we'd like to thank my amazing husband, Kwaku, Sam and Dilly, and all of you for being a part of the global community that makes us so strong. Please remember to share with your friends. Keep listening and keep being a great girlfriend. I'm Sybil Amuti, and I'm out. Peace.